release of results ceremony. At this time, I would like to invite Rian Harding, proud student of John Gray High School, to lead us in our national song. Please rise and join him.
O land of soft, fresh breezes and verdant trees so fair, with thy Creator's glory reflected everywhere. O sea of palest emerald, merging to darkest blue. Whene'er my thoughts fly God, I always think of you. Dear verdant island set in blue Caribbean sea, I'm coming very soon. Oh, beauteous eyes to thee. Although I've wandered far, my heart enshrines thee yet. Homeland fair Canaanite, I cannot forget.
Thank you, Rian, for that powerful rendition. You may be seated. So this morning feels bright with possibility. We're here to celebrate a lot of hard work, steady effort, late nights, and those moments where those tough problems just finally click. We're here to recognize the journey that turns hard work into real opportunity. Not too long ago, maybe a little too long ago, I was in the same shoes of many of the students across the Caribbean. I was waiting with bated breath for this day, the day when all the effort would be realized, when doors of opportunity might swing open, and the next chapter could come into focus with clarity. And yes, I shared the same sense of anxiety and suspense that many of the students are feeling now, but I was made better for it. As the results are released today, let's also make sure you share your ambitions, the ideas you want to bring to life, the problems you want to solve, and the ways that you will lead as you take this next step. Congratulations to all the students. May your achievements be a light to guide the path for others behind you, and may your next steps be filled with curiosity and confidence. Before we proceed, it is my honor to invite a thoughtful voice to offer our invocation to this morning's ceremony. Please join me in welcoming Pastor Andrew Ebanks from the Agape Family Worship Center. I'll ask everyone to stand.
Thank you. Let's bow our heads and pray. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity that we have to come here today to celebrate with these students. We thank you, Father, that across the Caribbean, that today they are awaiting those results. And Lord, as they come in this moment to receive those results, we just pray that your Spirit would rest upon each and every one across these islands that dot the Caribbean Sea. We pray, Father God, for your presence to be in their homes and their schools, to fill their families. And Lord, that they would be filled with hope in this time, that they would be filled with joy even. That, Lord, as they eagerly anticipate these results, that your presence would go before them, Father God. That you would guide them into the future that you have for them, Lord. That you would grant them wisdom, that they would know what to do, that they would know the decisions to make. Your word says that if any of us lack wisdom, that we should ask you for it, and that you would give it to us. And we pray that over each of these students here today, Father God, that they would know how you are guiding and leading their lives. Because, Lord, you have a purpose in store for every single one of them. So calm the anxiety, calm the nerves, calm whatever may be happening in their hearts and minds, the uncertainty about the future, because, Lord, you know what tomorrow holds. But you told us we need not worry about today or about tomorrow, because sufficient for today is its own trouble. And so, Lord, guide them, lead them, give them peace as we place them into your hands. We thank you for this ceremony that we celebrate here today, and we pray that all would go well. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Ebanks. It is my pleasure to introduce the Chief Officer for the Cayman Islands Ministry of Education and Training, Ms. Satonya Cacho. Ms. Cacho began her career as a teacher after earning a double bachelor's degree in elementary education and psychology from the University of Miami. She quickly advanced to leadership roles, including the principal of Bordentown Primary School and manager of initial teacher training. She held senior positions, such as Deputy Chief Officer and Acting Chief Officer, before becoming the Chief Officer of the Ministry of Education, Youth, Sports, Agriculture, and Lands, the largest government ministry with over 1,000 staff. Ms. Cacho holds a master's degree in Business Administration and Higher Education Management from the University of Southampton, graduating with distinction. She has led major educational reforms, including the 2016 Education Law Revision, the implementation of free school meals, improved child protection, and teacher salary increases. Under her leadership, school performance improved significantly, with 3 earning good ratings from the Office of Education Standards. And she was instrumental in ensuring safe school operations, continuity in learning, and student welfare through the 2019 COVID pandemic. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Satonya Cacho to deliver the welcoming remarks.
Good morning. I would like to welcome the Minister for Education, Training, and Finance and Economic Development, the Honourable Ralston Anglin. Elected Member of Parliament, Mr. Roy Tatum. Registrar and CEO of the Caribbean Examinations Council, Dr. Wayne Wesley. Director of Operations of the Caribbean Examinations Council, Dr. Nicole Manning. From the Ministry of Education and Training, Adrian Jones. Our Chief Human Resources Manager, Mrs. Kamari Fletcher-Barrett. Our Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Denise Hutchinson. Director for the Department of Education Services, Mr. Mark Ray. Deputy Directors for the Department of Education Services, Dr. Richard Wildman and Ms. Tammy Hopkins. Senior School Improvement Officer, Dr. Janice Headley. Acting Senior School Improvement Officer, Mr. John Clark. Chairman of the Education Council, Mr. Shamari Scott. Representatives from ICCI, UWI, His Majesty's Prison Service, other members of the Ministry of Education and Training, Department of Education Services staff, local registrar and manager of data and testing, Mr. Wingrove Hunt, public relations and marketing officer from CXC, Ms. Michelle Narang Singh, school leaders, educators, parents, students, media, other esteemed guests joining us in person and online at CXC TV and on CIG TV, a warm good morning to you all. On behalf of the Ministry of Education and Training, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the Caribbean Examination Council's official release for the 2025 May to June examination results. This is a proud day for us in the Cayman Islands. I'm honored to share it with you. Over time, this ceremony has become one of CXC's highly anticipated events, hosted by a different member state each year. I'm delighted that today, for the very first time, we have the privilege of welcoming you to the beautiful Cayman Islands, renowned for our pristine beaches, our world-class dive sites, and exquisite cuisine. To our visitors, I hope you will find time to experience some of what makes our islands so beautiful. To those joining us online, I extend an open invitation for you to visit and experience our warm Cayman-kind hospitality. As part of today's program, we will hear an analysis of the May-June results and witness the symbolic handing over of these results to the Minister of Education and Training, the Honourable Ralston Anglin. I wish to congratulate CXC on another staging of this event and sincerely thank the teams from our own Ministry of Education and Training, Department of Education Services, and the Department of Communications for working together to host today's occasion in partnership with CXC. To the students across the Caribbean, today is all about you. You have navigated a rapidly changing educational landscape, embraced new technologies, and faced the challenges of this era with resilience and determination. You have shown remarkable perseverance, focus, and dedication, pressing forward through long hours of coursework, rigorous school-based assessments, and personal challenges that may have tested your resolve. And now, you have arrived at this well-earned moment of accomplishment. Today, we not only celebrate your achievements, but also the dedication, guidance, and unwavering commitment of your teachers, parents. Remember, this is not the end. It is a stepping stone, a chance to learn, to grow, and return even stronger. Once again, welcome to the Cayman Islands. May today's celebration inspire all of us to continue striving for excellence.
Thank you, Ms. Cacho. Next, we will have Dr. Wayne Wesley deliver the Registrar's remarks. Dr. Wayne Wesley is a Caribbean educator and global thought leader with a distinguished track record in transformational leadership and executive management, spanning the gamut of human development initiatives in education, training, and in critical assessment and certification systems to drive the development and competitiveness of the regional workforce and economy. Dr. Wesley was appointed Registrar and Chief Executive Officer of the Caribbean Examinations Council, CXC, on the 1st of August 2019, an assignment to which he has brought inspired leadership and sublime technical skills. Under his leadership, CXC is amplifying its duty of care and impact as the region's premier assessment and certification body. A 2003 Fulbright Scholar, Wayne Wesley holds a Doctor of Philosophy in Industrial Engineering from Florida State University, with a Master of Science degree in Manufacturing Systems from Southern Illinois University, and a Bachelor of Education in Industrial Technology with first-class honors from the University of Technology in Jamaica. He is also a Chartered Manager and Fellow of the Chartered Management Institute in the UK, a Fellow of the American Society for Quality, with postgraduate training and certification in financial service management, strategic direction and leadership, and executive education training from the Chartered Management Institute in the UK. Columbia University, Harvard University, and the Manchester Business School. Dr. Wesley currently serves on the CARICOM New School Model Committee and the Caribbean Community Administrative Tribunal, and on the Board of Trustees of the International Association for Educational Assessment. We are honored to have him share with us today on this occasion of this 2025 CXC Release of Results ceremony. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Wayne Wesley.
Good morning. And good morning to all those Now my phone is getting too smart. I said good morning and my phone responded, good morning to you too. And I'm like, oh, what's going on? You know, I guess AI is taking over everything, right? If you're being polite, I will in turn be polite as well, right? But good morning to you all. It is certainly a pleasure being here again in the island of the Cayman Islands. I am saying we can't miss the warmth. Huh? The temperature. You walk outside and you recognize that, yes, you're definitely in the Caribbean. But certainly it is a pleasure for us at the Caribbean Examinations Council to be here in the Cayman Islands for the very first time, releasing our annual results. And I know students are watching online now and say, just get on with it so I can get my results. And even those in the audience are also wanting to get to the results. But you'll get there in time. But we are pleased that this is the very first time we are able to do so in the Cayman Islands, and we just want to express our sincere gratitude and thanks to the government and people of the Cayman Islands who made this possible, Minister, and your ministry for us to be here. Certainly, I know that when I'm in the Cayman Islands, I don't want to go anywhere else. The civic pride that is displayed by this country, cleanliness everywhere. The city is just so pristine. Chief Officer, when you were talking about the pristine nature of the environment, I can attest to that. And those of you who have not yet come, I'm going to be a part of your tourism attraction now. Please come to the island of the Cayman Islands. You will not be disappointed, right? There is great civic pride here. The city is just pristine. The environment is just wonderful to live in. And I'm happy to be here and enjoying all of that. So let me start first by recognizing the Honorable Ralston Anglin, Minister of Education, Training, Finance, and Economic Development. And the minister is so humble. Yesterday we had a conversation with him. And in my conversation, I said, some time ago there were others, okay, I don't want to get myself in trouble, but the previous Minister of Education was also the Minister of Finance, and that was a great combination because I know the people of the Cayman Islands know that, well, education will get what it needs because the minister is also the Minister of Finance. But I didn't know that he was the Minister of Finance. And of course he said, well, I can have a conversation with the Minister of Finance to find out what we can do for education. And then I didn't even catch when they were trying to say it to me, but I am the Minister of Finance. So that's a great combination, right? To have your Minister of Education being the Minister of Finance. So when I got in here this morning and I saw him, I said, Minister, couldn't you have made it a bit more explicit? Right? That you are the Minister of Finance, so I could make more demands on behalf of you. Yes. But he was very humble in not revealing until I discover on my own. Our principal host, of course, facilitating us hosting this annual event. We are pleased, and on behalf of Professor Sir Hilary Beckles, the council members and staff of the Caribbean Examination Council, we want to express our sincere gratitude to you and your government for facilitating the hosting of this release of results. Distinguished members of the wider education and training sector, civil society, members of the public and private sector, employers, and in particular the financial services industry, Caymanians, residents. I can't believe I skipped it. You see all these AI things working on me. I skipped an entire set of people, right? And gone to the general announcement. But may I acknowledge the presence of the Caymanian Employment and Immigration Minister, the Honorable Michael Miles is present. Centonia Kocher, the Chief Officer, Minister of Education and Training, Deputy Chief Officer, Mr. Jerome McCoy, Permanent Secretary, and officials and staff of the Ministry of Education. Certainly our local registrar, Mr. Wingrove Hunt. Mr. Wingrove, are you breathing a sigh of relief now? Results already? Yes, very hardworking local registrar here in the Cayman Islands. We are grateful for the important work that you have carried out. I also want to say to members of the local and regional media present with us, certainly welcome to this our release ceremony, and we are looking forward to having a great day as students will receive their results today. Now, it is always a great day, as I said, to be in the beautiful Cayman Islands. On my last trip here in May 2024, we did get a very good tour of your education sector here. And again, Minister, I must compliment the people and government of the Cayman Islands for what they are doing with education. I'm particularly impressed with John Gray. I've been there, and others. I was told John Gray is just one. There are many others. And the one that I was most impressed with, yes, I'm happy for John Gray and what is happening here, but we also visit your special education center and the kind of effort that you have placed there to deal with persons with disability. And any education system that is going to be truly inclusive must cater to all. And I was very pleased to see the kind of work that is being done for persons with disability and how they are being incorporated within the space of education. So well done on that to the people of, yes, they deserve it. Given the great civic pride that I've seen here and the transformative effect that it has had on your environment, us at the Caribbean Examination Council know that such great transformative activity is also possible in education, where every single child will be able to achieve their full potential. At the Caribbean Examination Council, we have moved on the mantra, our duty of care, ensuring that we create an environment that will allow every child to become productive citizens of society and making positive contribution towards a country's economic development. In this era of pervasive learning and artificial intelligence, equity is the new knowledge. Equity is the new excellence. Never before has knowledge been as available as it is now. And in so many digital platforms that suits how our students and the current millennials learn. They absorb information in a different form. When I was growing up, we get it mainly in the static form. You go read a book, you go, write your notes. In these days, they have the audio, they have the visual, they have all of these virtual realities, artificial intelligence. So knowledge has become ubiquitous. Everybody has access to knowledge and content. I think our critical point of focus here is how do we use that knowledge to create impact, right? Because a lot of persons right now, and most of us in society, can always criticize a problem, and we can outline that problem quite well, and we are very eloquent and articulate in in expressing and saying what that problem is. But when it comes on to solution, there is a deficit there. And so what we want to do is that as we facilitate our students learning within the kind of environment that suits them best, that they are not only developing critical thinking skills, but they are also appreciating the need to be solution-oriented. So if you have critical thinking skills, then you must use that in conjunction with your problem-solving skills to effect change. And as I've been saying to the groups that I've been meeting with since I've been here on Monday, is that it is important that if you want to demonstrate wisdom, wisdom is simply having the understanding as to how to apply knowledge. And if you know how to apply knowledge, not just having knowledge, but knowing how to apply knowledge, you will be displaying wisdom. And in displaying wisdom, you are solving problems. And that is what we want to create for our students. Having access to the content that they need, but having the competencies to use that knowledge to solve problems in society, so we all will experience a better quality of life. It is important then that as we move forward as a region, that we begin to create the environment that will foster learning for all. At the Caribbean Examinations Council, we have reimagined our philosophy, and in reimagining our philosophy, we have taken into account that content is important, but competency should get greater importance in our education. In other words, we have to create a greater balance between the content one receives and the competencies that they have to use such content. And in doing that, we recognize that we have to now put the learner at the center of what we do. And in putting the learner at the center of what we do, it simply means we must understand the preference of the learner. We must understand the learning rate, the pace at which someone learns, as well as the learning depth, the amount of information one can absorb at any one time. So that's content. And if we are focused on the learner, then we are going to create an environment that is suited to their learning preferences. We are going to create an environment that is suited to the rate at which they learn, and we are going to create an environment that is suited to the amount of content that they can absorb at any one time. You know these millennials, they are watching TikTok 2 minutes, and if it is longer than that, they're gone. So we have to be conscious as to who it is that we are catering to, and in so doing, create an environment that is flexible and allowing for them to achieve their full potential. We should move away, I know, and there are persons that will say we have to provide guidance and structure for them. Yes, but we must do it in such a way that they still have a lot of flexibility to create their own learning profile. And in creating their own learning profile, it will become of interest to them so that they are not tuned out. Because some students in the classroom, they are tuned out. What you're presenting to me and what I'm interested in, they are just not aligned. We as adults and responsible leaders will have to now create the environment that will allow them to self-actualize and learn. Of course, make sure the guardrails are there because that's why we are adults and we are providing them. But we should not at any point try to instill on them what we went through when we were going in schools. It's a totally different environment. What we, however, should maintain is the standard by which these individuals are capable of learning and demonstrating the competencies. So we have reimagined our philosophy, and we have taken that philosophy, and we have now created what we call the Caribbean Targeted Education Certificate. And what that will do is bring a lot more flexibility in catering to the individuals within the school system, taking the current CSEC standard syllabus and breaking that down into modules related and relevant learning outcomes that students can take in steps and progression towards achieving their certification. And so students can now mix and match. Schools can now provide opportunities for students to select what aspect of a program that they would want to pursue, all at the same standard. We are not watering down the standard. The standards are the same. But what we are doing is recognizing preferences, recognizing learning pace, recognizing the amount of content one can absorb at any one time, and creating a system that will be flexible enough for every student, regardless of their preference, regardless of the pace at which they learn, regardless of the amount of content they can absorb at any one time, can still achieve their full potential. And that will augur well for our economy of the region. Last year, I pointed to the fact, and Nicole will be coming to present the results to you, but last year I pointed to the fact that 5 subjects is what is used as a standard to determine those students who can matriculate to university or seek employment. 5 subjects, including mathematics and English. Last year I reported that 41% of those students who wrote 5 subjects or more actually achieved 5 subjects, including maths and English. I'm delighted to say this year that that number has moved forward to 44%. So 3% increase in the number of students who have now received 5 subjects, including mathematics and English, which is the benchmark that determines whether or not a student can be gainfully employed or matriculate into university. That is significant because every time a child leaves school without maths or English, they suffer underemployment and they suffer from not being able to matriculate. So the fact that that number has moved by 3% is a good sign. That means we're moving in the right direction. And it also means that more persons are doing better than before. And we need to continue on that trend. In fact, I want to congratulate all the member states who have been implementing strategies to treat with persons treating with individuals for literacy and numeracy, English and mathematics. It is bearing fruit. Of course, we have not reached where we want to reach, but certainly the indicators are moving in the right direction. So whatever you're doing, continue to do it because it is bearing fruit. And with CTEC coming on, it will, in the future, create more opportunities for students to demonstrate that they have achieved the standard for which we have set, which we set for them. Now, it is important because for the CTEC, which is the Caribbean Targeted Education Certificate, we have developed and modularized the English syllabus and the math syllabus in 3 modules. And those new syllabuses will be placed in the school system come September, starting this September. And I'm pleased to also say that we are starting the pilot with 3,000 students across the region who will write that new form come May, June next year. Right across the region, 3,000 students across all member states. As a pilot, to make sure what we are doing, we learn from it because we believe in research to inform proper policy decision making. And this pilot will provide us with the requisite information for us to better that product as we roll it out across the region. So 3,000 students will be engaged in the, well, while 3,000 students will be participating in the pilot, the entire education system will be exposed to the new modularized mathematics and English syllabus in September. We have already started the training of teachers in that regard, and we are continuing to ensure that that development continues, because we recognize that every student must be given the opportunity to realize their full potential. No one should be left behind, and it is our responsibility to create that environment that will allow a child, regardless of where they are, regardless of their social status, regardless of their social class. You should have access to quality, relevant education that will allow you to become productive citizens of society. And CXC will not rest until we have created the necessary environment for our students to learn. And we are doing that in partnership with the Ministerial of Education, teachers, principals, students, parents, the private sector, the universities. We are working with all critical stakeholders to make sure we give our students the best chance to survive. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wesley. I'm excited by CTEC, so when that pilot is concluded, we'd be interested to see those results. All right. Our next guest is Dr. Nicole Manning. Dr. Manning joined the staff of the Caribbean Examination Council, CXC, on the 1st of February 2020 as a Director of Operations Examination Services. Dr. Manning possesses a Doctor of Education in Organizational Leadership from the Nova Southeastern University in Florida, a Master of Science in Computer-Based Management Information Systems, and a Bachelor of Science in Chemistry and Management from the University of West Indies, Mona. She also holds a postgraduate diploma in education from the University of Technology and a postgraduate certificate in risk management from the Institute of Risk Management in the United Kingdom. Dr. Manning is an industry professional with over 20 years of regional and international managerial experience in diverse industries from test development and measurement to quality assurance and strategic management. Dr. Manning's extensive experience in the fields of education and assessment have equipped her with the necessary tools to strategically manage the development of examination services, which are delivered by the examinations development and production, and examinations administration and security departments. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Nicole Manning to the stage.
Good morning, everyone. So as my registrar and CEO mentioned earlier, we are aware that persons are literally saying 2 minutes. Because it's very important that all our parents and candidates get that opportunity to log in and to see their results. I know they're waiting patiently, so let me move along quite quickly and to see if I can provide the necessary information that will also provide this context, supporting some of what Dr. Wesley would have mentioned. So, it's indeed a pleasure, as Dr. Wesley would have mentioned, that yes, you're supporting us, the Caribbean, the Cayman Islands, and the hospitality has been amazing. It has been really, really been good, and we really are enjoying it. Thank you very much. Let me start by just noting and recognizing our Honorable Minister, Honorable Ralston Anglin. Dr. Wesley went through quite nicely to recognize the Deputy Chief Officer, Mr. Jerome McCoy. You're the moderator for us today. We do have what you call your Chief Officer, but it's commonly known across the region as your Permanent Secretary. So just for the region to understand, Kimari Fletcher Barrett, correct? No? What did I miss? Oh, somebody was saying I'm not correct. So, thank you. I'm looking for the name on the list. I'm not seeing it. I want to get it right. I'm a teacher. Okay. Right. No, I'm not seeing it at all. I want to. In addition to that, Mr. Mark Ray, the director, what we would call in the other jurisdiction, Chief Education Officer. Oh, you didn't highlight it. Okay. Sitania Cacho. Thank you. You see, when in assessment, you have to be complete. So I would not stop until I saw it. Great. So Mark Ray, or what we would call Chief Education Officer, I think you refer to him as your director, right? And as well as other members of the Ministry of Education. I would like to make special mention of Mr. Wingrove Hunt. Now, Mr. Wingrove Hunt is one of 21 local registrars that CXC utilizes across the region. The structure of CXC could never treat with the millions of scripts that we have to deal with. We have over 600,000 subject entries across 34 CSEC and the over 30 plus CAPE, units 1 and 2. It's important then to understand that without our local registrars, we cannot do it. So Mr. Hunt, thank you from the Cayman Islands. And to our other local registrars across the region, we say a very big thank you. You work very hard, and I'm telling you folks, they work very hard to ensure that the scripts are moved, the administration, everything is done in a timely manner. With that said, I want to first provide an outline as to what I'm going to be discussing or presenting. The overview in terms of what happened in the May-June 2025 examinations, the regional results, and we'll give some insights in relation to the results for the Cayman Islands. I begin with the overview for the May-June 2025 examinations. And I must say, as we begin, that we do offer several qualifications. So CXC actually offer qualifications from the primary level all the way up to post-secondary. So, and we do facilitate assessment in several jurisdictions, even if they are not doing the Caribbean primary exit assessment that we offer. So with that, in that context, we have the Caribbean primary exit assessment, and we also have our competency lower secondary assessment called CCSLC, referred to as CCSLC. And I'll start with that and move to CSEC and CAPE. It's very important to note that while we come out of COVID, and this year, I'm not sure how many persons are realizing that this year is the true COVID group. They started school in 2020, and they did exams this year. And so a lot of the results we're seeing is very pleasing, because to know exactly where they are coming from and to realize where they are. And I must say that parents, regardless of what you see, I'm telling you, please to give them a hug, please to really recognize them, because to do this over 5 years could not have been easy. For the CCSLC, we saw a reduction in both the candidate and subject entries. And I wanted to share some gender distribution information here. Note carefully that the male-female ratio is not very different here, 48 to 52. That's not so bad. But notice that the males are at 52% at this point in time. When we moved to CSEC, where we saw an increase in the number of candidate entries we had, as well as subject entries. So now our candidates can enter, but you know, candidates enter for several subjects. So that's why you're seeing those two. So we saw an increase in both areas. But look at what happens with the gender distribution. It switches. So you have more females, 58%, and males moving to 42%. In addition, For CAPE, while we saw a reduction similar to CCSLC in terms of both the candidate and subject entry, for the gender distribution, we see an even greater disparity. Again, 62% for the females and 38% for the males. And so it is important for us to look at that information and to do some deep dive on a national basis. Yes, we will have the conversation regionally, but it's always important to look at it. Another area that I want to highlight is the concern on the absenteeism. CXC is always concerned about this because it means if a candidate is absent, it means that they are not going to receive a grade for even one component. So if it is that they're absent for one component, they will not receive a grade. So it's really difficult when you do all that work and you are missing for whatever reason. I must hasten to say though, if it's illness or death by whatever means, whatever it is, not the death of the candidate, but a parent or someone who's close or whatever, it can be other issues. We do have a consideration we call our compassionate consideration, but with evidence as to why the candidate would have been missing from the exam, then we take that into consideration and we actually grade the candidate. So if you notice for the absenteeism here, this is our first concerned area where we are seeing, even though we had 98,160 candidates registered for, subject to entries, we had 3,593 candidates absent across the various subject entries. Now, yes, this is a big improvement if you look at what happened in 2022 to 2025, but still not where we want it to be. Just to share that Electronic Engineering Technology Unit 1 recorded the highest absenteeism, but we had subjects as presented on screen that where we saw zero absenteeism, and we're happy about that. For CSEC, likewise, the reduction of absenteeism continues, but 32,000 is still too many candidates absent from across the various subject areas. Likewise, we had the lowest absenteeism we saw would have been for agricultural science double awards with 1.45%, French 2.88%, economics 3.13%, additional maths 3.54%. Visual arts, like 2024, recording the highest level of absenteeism this year. And you see that range from 2.88 to 4.17%. While less than last year, which would have been about 17%, it still is something for concern. CCSLC follows the same trend, but it's now at a 737 all-time low over the last 4 years. And we saw where integrated science recorded the highest absenteeism, while the CCSLC digital literacy recorded zero absenteeism. So this is something that we take a deep dive annually in terms of understanding why is it that candidates are absent. And the top 5 reasons remain the same. Personal emergency, they weren't adequately prepared, so they didn't turn up. A documented illness, as I said, we treat with those 2 middle ones, death in the family, but they preferred not to attend for whatever reason. Now, just imagine you have paid and you have decided not to attend. And so we always encourage, it's an opportunity to try. It's better to try than not to do anything at all. We move quickly into the general administration. And in the general administration, we provide an overview of the fact that the examination would have been held over a 7-week period, with CSEC taking up the first 6 weeks, CSEC and CAPE, happening concurrently in the first 6 weeks, but that 7th week is CAPE, and we have the CAPE and the CCSLC happening. We also listen to our local registrars. We work with them. So this year we would have had Easter competing there with the oral, so we gave an extension by 2 days, and it was important to understand the benefits of that to the candidates. I must also note that this year we had a revision in our regulations, and so that document would have been out and we would have shared with the candidates on the back of the timetable those changes, as well as in the rooms. We give posters, we do it on social media, on our website. Generally, we provide this kind of information. Why is this information so necessary, especially the component about the graduated penalties? So in the past, we had a penalty for having a cell phone, whether it's in your bag or on your person. But we have changed that. We have introduced what we call a graduated scale. So if it is, the candidate can have the phone on them, but they may not have been using the phone. There's no evidence of them using the phone. The penalty could never be the same. So we made those changes, and we have effected those changes this year. I want also to add that we continue to work with the institutions and the local registrars to advance online assessment. In this digital era, it is something that if nothing else we get right as a region, we have to get this right. Digital transformation is upon us. We are all talking about AI, and I have one statement on that a little later, but it's important to know that we need to move in this direction. It will augur well for those students, especially those with the exceptionalities. You mentioned, Dr. Wesley mentioned the Cayman Islands having a special institution to deal with those at different ends of the spectrum. And it's important that you understand that the platform that we have can facilitate speech to text, text to speech. It's important that as you get in that realm and give them that opportunity, that we move into online assessment. CXC offers all our multiple choice papers online, and particularly 5 subjects with various components fully online. 53.17% of the candidates who indicated that they wanted to be engaged using online assessment actually were engaged in online assessment, and for CSEC and for CAPE, 69.44%. Now, the candidates love this way of operating. I think it's more sometimes the administrators are a little hesitant when they finish in 15 minutes and so on. But I tell you, they have full power and they do just as well as a person utilizing the physical papers. For CAPE, we saw a reduction in the number of candidates actually engaged in this area. And for CSEC, we saw a slight increase, and we have 20 of our territories engaged in utilizing electronic assessment. We move quickly to the school-based assessment, and the school-based assessment is a very key component of what is required for the candidates to submit. And we look at what happened for CAPE, first of all, consistent with the fact that you had a reduction in the subject entries. We also saw a reduction in terms of the SBA candidate entries, noting that you had 2.14% of the students deciding not to submit SBA to teachers. In other words, the teachers selected on the platform, or when they are submitting the SBAs, I did not receive an SBA from the candidate. What does that mean? The candidate is going to be ungraded. Again, not a situation that we are really happy about. So we do have another situation on the right you're seeing, where sometimes we have the information, one component, whether it be the SBA or the scores, but we do not have the complete picture. And that represented 0.88% of the cohort. For CSEC, likewise, similar in keeping with the trend of the increase of the subject entries, we had 441,154 candidates submitting their SBAs as required, but 3.01% not submitting to the teachers at all. While it's less than previous years, it's still not where we want to go. And similarly, the submission of whether the SBA themselves or the scores. Now, this component, as I move straight into the what we refer to as the irregularities. The irregularities, as I mentioned earlier about the penalties, whether it be cell phone or otherwise, they vary. And it's important to note that this year we saw an all-time high of 80 irregularities. Not good. Not good. It therefore means that these candidates of the 80 may have different penalties. And I can tell you, majority of these candidates, in fact, it was about over 40-50% of them would have their results cancelled. So it means that they are found in the exam with a cell phone. For example, I'm just using an example. It means that that candidate's result is cancelled. We beg, we plead, we say, do not take it in the exam. You also have situations where candidates use the cell phones. They'll tell you that, oh, I can't find the answer. Didn't remember the answer, so I Googled it. And so those candidates are not only, the results for them are not only cancelled, but it affects their other subjects. In fact, they're disqualified. Where you have the hardships, we had 449 hardships, less than previous years. And it is something that we would have treated with the candidates. These candidates, we provide that favorable response to their situation as they would have shared. A little deep dive on the irregularities. I mentioned the unauthorized devices. We're seeing now where the smart watches are becoming a part of the process. It's no longer just the phone. And we do know that and are conscious that other aspects will come into play eventually, like the glasses and so on. And so with that consciousness, we have changed it from cell phones to unauthorized devices, widening the gap of what is not required for the exams. We saw other issues in terms of unruly conduct, misuse of material. Collusion was a big one this year. If you notice the jump from collusion for CSEC from 1 to 8, that means we are cheating. Right? We're working together where candidates drop the paper on the ground and the person next door knows they must pick it up and so on and so forth. These are just examples of what unfortunately happens in the exams. For the CAPE, likewise, we saw an increase in the use of unauthorized device, but CAPE was not as much, similar in movement in terms of the cheating, but it was not as much. And it may speak to the fact that they are a little bit more mature, or it may speak to the cohort because it's a smaller group. But here we are saying it did increase from 2024, and when we saw it going down, we were happy. But then we are seeing a spike again. So it is something we're encouraging the ministries of education to work with our students, parents. Please, they should not even have the cell phone on them. You know, we beg and plead every year, but it is something that's important. I cannot end this component of my presentation without encouraging the ethical use and the whole notion of integrity as you engage in the process. We do have some questionable situations that we're investigating. Situations where you see candidates with the same mistakes on an exam. That tells you that something happened, correct? Okay. So these are things that we are still investigating. So when candidates do not see grades, please do not be surprised because the notification is sent to our local registrars and they will be aware to let you know. Now we move straight into the May-June 2025 results. And I did speak about our 5 flagship programs, and I moved straight into the first component of CAPE. And so for CAPE, we are aware that we grade from grades 1 to 7, but acceptable grades are within the grade 1 to 5 band. Okay, the grade 1 to 5 band. So we give an overall performance for our new generation subjects. And for the new generation subjects, Pretty much, we see very good performance year on year. This year, unfortunately for financial services, we saw, particularly Unit 1, we saw a dip as low as 52.08%, approximately 52%. But we saw a couple subjects, design and technology, green engineering, Units 1 and 2, having 100% pass rate. For mathematics, regionally, we saw some improvement there for the Cape, applied math, integrated math, pure math, Unit 1 and 2, right across the board. And this speaks well for what is happening at this level. For pure science, we saw also an increase generally across the board for the biology, both Units 1 and 2 on average. For chemistry, we saw an increase for Unit 1, but a reduction for Unit 2. For environmental science, similar to chemistry, where you had an increase on the Unit 1, but a reduction on the Unit 2. And for physics, we saw an increase both for Unit 1 and 2 across the years. Okay, sorry about that. For the arts, this looked very good for us. Where particularly art and design units, both Units 1 and 2, as well as some of the options for the performing arts. If you're noticing there, performing arts, generally Unit 1 did very well, which means that 100% means that they all received acceptable grades. But then you're also seeing the options, cinematic, dance, drama, music, and only drama had a reduction. Other sciences, we are seeing a reduction, well, I would say it's consistent for agricultural science Unit 1, but an increase on the Unit 2. Food and nutrition saw an increase both on the Unit 1 and 2, and likewise for physical education Unit 1, and a slight reduction on the Unit 2. For the languages overall, communication studies, we saw a reduction. I'll give a further deep dive on that. French, likewise, French Unit 1, that is, French Unit 2 was stable. Literatures in English saw a reduction both for Units 1 and 2. And for Spanish Unit 1, we saw Units 1 and 2, we saw an increase. We also want to note for the humanities that we are seeing some consistency with previous years, except for history, Unit 1, we saw an increase, and for the Unit 2, we saw a reduction. Law, a reduction for the Unit 1, but an increase for Unit 2. Sociology saw a slight reduction on both Units 1 and 2. For the business areas, overall, for accounting Unit 1 and 2, and I'll give a deeper dive on this, we did see an increase over the previous year, not the best over the last 3 years, but an increase on the Unit 1 and a reduction on the Unit 2. For economics, we saw stability there for the Unit 1 and some stability also on the Unit 2. Entrepreneurship Unit 1 and 2, we saw a slight increase on the Unit 2, but some stability there on the 1. Logistics and supply chain, very important to the region. We'll speak a little bit more about that. We saw an increase on both. And for management of business, while a slight reduction on the 1, we saw an improvement on the 2. So it's important to note, consistent with the business, we also look at the engineering and technology. Okay. Engineering and technology, where we saw BMed, that engineering program for units 1 and 2. You are seeing some movement there in terms of the trend over the last 3 years. But we must say that particularly for the mechanical area, we are seeing the greatest improvement. Well, not as well, mechanical, both units 1 and 2. For computer science, we saw an increase for the unit 1 and a reduction for the, a stability, sorry, for the unit 2. Electrical and electronic technology, we saw an improvement on the unit 1 and the options varied across. For IT, however, information technology, we saw an increase both for units 1 and 2. This year, in terms of sampling, I decided to give you some additional context. Now, I'm classifying what we're calling major movers. These are subjects where you have the largest population or a large increase. So we know, in particular, communication studies and Caribbean studies are usually high population subjects. We saw a reduction in both subjects this year in terms of the number of persons registering for those. And this is now giving you a deep dive in terms of the actual overall performance across the grades. So you're seeing here a little less grade 1s in terms of for 2025, but overall the performance is consistent with previous years for Caribbean studies. For communication studies, we saw a reduction in the performance to 93%, but I would say pretty much consistent because 94 in previous years. But similar for the grade 1s, and so we are also, recommending that we take a deeper dive where communication studies and Caribbean studies is concerned. Big movers, our top 5 subjects, we would have had biology, management of business, chemistry, entrepreneurship, and physics. Those were the top 5 subjects in terms of the largest cohorts sitting CAPE. And so just to give you a little highlight here for biology, we saw some consistency with the performance for unit 1, a little reduction there on the grade 1. For unit 2, we saw an increase, an improvement, overall improvement over the last 3 years. In fact, this is the highest it has been over the last 3 years, as well as for the grade 1s. For management of business, we saw a reduction in the overall performance, both at the first 3 grade levels, as well as the overall performance. For unit 2, likewise, we saw some consistency, actually an improvement on the grade 1 and an improvement overall. So for chemistry, consistent with what we were seeing with the unit 1 for MOB, we saw a slight reduction on the grade 1s and some improvement there overall. In fact, consistent with 2023, that's chemistry unit 1. For chemistry unit 2, we saw a reduction both overall as well as what we have there for the unit, for the grade 1, sorry. Entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship saw a whopping 10% in the grade 1s this year, and 97%, an improvement overall. Consistent with unit 1, we are seeing an improvement in the unit 2. So this is good for people who are obviously going to be looking at venturing out there. So that's a good thing for the Caribbean. So while you see some consistency there for the overall performance, note the improvement right across the first 3 grade levels. That's very good. For physics, unit 1, we saw an increase, 30%, the best it has been in the last 3 years, and consistency overall for unit 1. For unit 2, 36%, best it has been for the last 3 years, and very good performance overall of 98%. For the CAPE subjects, you do have subjects that we would like to highlight where I would say that we have selected them to aligning them with the relevance they have with regional development. So in addition to the ones that were presented before, you have a few other subjects where we wanted to highlight what was happening in terms of the importance, and even in Cayman here, finance, law, and a few others, tourism, and so on. So I'll go through some of them quickly. We saw an increase over last year for Accounting Unit 1, overall performance, 10% increase there. For Accounting Unit 2, we saw a reduction both for the overall performance as well as the grade 1 performance. For Animation and Game Design, a very important subject for us as we move forward in this era of digital transformation. 16% and an overall increase and best for the last 3 years for the grade 1, as well as for the overall performance. You're seeing 99% receiving acceptable grades, and I think that's very good. Similarly, for the Unit 2, you're seeing there the 22%, consistent with 2023, but better than last year, and best overall performance over the last 3 years. Computer Science, Unit 1, we're seeing an increase to 95% of overall performance, but a dip in the slight dip, I would say it's consistent for the grade 1. For Computer Science, Unit 2, we saw an improvement to 98% of the overall performance, but a reduction on the grade 1. For the Digital Media, Unit 1, we saw an improvement to 98% and a dip in performance for the grade 1. Unit 2, Digital Media went up to 41%. Notice it's it is double the 2023 figure, even though it's more than just 2% more than last year. 97%, a bit of consistency overall for Unit 2. For Economics, we saw consistency there for the Unit 1, but a reduction on the grade 1, but an improvement for Unit 2 as well, both the overall performance and the grade 1s. Environmental Science, Unit 1, we saw an improvement in the overall performance, but a reduction in the Unit 1. Likewise, consistent for the Environmental Science Unit 2, we have some consistency there, both for the grade 1s as well as the overall performance. Financial Services, we didn't see any grade 1s this year, consistent with last year, and we saw a dip actually in the overall performance. Unit 2, however, had a whopping increase to 94% compared to last year, and best in performance over the last 3 years. Unit 2 had no grade 1s. For the Food and Nutrition, we have an improvement from 75% to 98% this year, and we saw some also improvement in the grade 1s, both for Unit 1 and Unit 2. Notice how high it has increased for the Unit 2. Information Technology, Unit 1 and 2. Unit 1 and 2 did very well. Unit 1 here, you're seeing the 22% for the grade 1s, and Unit 2, you're seeing 32%. Very, very good performance. And it's very important that you note that all of this happened within a COVID period, for candidates who started in a COVID period. For the last couple of subjects, integrated math is consistent with the performance, as well as law. In terms of the units 1 and 2 performance. I must say, logistics and supply chain, Unit 1, 86%, an improvement over previous year, as well as Unit 2, 90%, the best you have seen over the last couple of years. Last but not least, physical education and sport, which saw a large increase also in the population registering for this. While where there was a reduction for the Unit 1, as well as Unit 2, we saw the population increasing here. So I will say that for tourism, this is our bread and butter, that we are seeing an increase, very good for the 21% on the Unit 1, but a reduction on the Unit 2. So that gives you a synopsis of the major movers and those that align with where the Caribbean is in relation to just some few selected subjects. For CSEC, let's move quickly into CSEC, math and science overall. This clicker isn't working as fast as me. My apologies for that. Okay, so math and science, you're seeing here an improvement in the additional mathematics. Also, you're seeing here a slight improvement in the general mathematics. Dr. Wesley would have mentioned that earlier. For the sciences, agricultural science, the single award, we are noticing a 91% there, an improvement over previous year, and stability on the double award. The chemistry reduction is, well, I wouldn't say it's a concern more so, but I would say that it is something that the countries will have to do a deep dive in. Business and humanities, generally, if we compare over the last 3 years, we're seeing some movement. It's kind of fluctuating almost, but an improvement for Caribbean history, an improvement for geography, an improvement for principles of accounts, as well as principles of business, a reduction on all the other areas. Languages, literature, and home economics. We saw an improvement to 80% for English A. We'll do a deeper dive. English B reduced to 69%. Family resource management had a reduction, had a reduction. Food, nutrition, and health, similar to what we saw in Cape, also saw an improvement. French improved. Physical education and sports, stable. Portuguese is predominantly done by one territory, but we saw an improvement there. Likewise, Spanish and clothing and textile. Technology and the arts, generally, I will say that we are seeing some reduction in the EDPM as well as the industrial technology building, but improvements for the options, other options for industrial technology. In relation to the major movers for English A and math being a major mover, we always do a deep dive here. And you're seeing English being the highest over the last 3 years and very good grades for grade 1. For mathematics, consistency with 2023 on the grade 1, and an improvement in terms of the overall performance over last year. So as in terms of what Dr. Wesley had mentioned earlier, it's consistent, and we're seeing the individual territories making some strides there. Social studies, an improvement on the grade 1s, but we're not too happy on the social studies in terms of the reduction, because this is one of our largest subjects. In fact, it is our largest subject in terms of the cohort. Principles of business, 17% in terms of the overall regional performance, and 84% on the overall regional performance, but 17% on the grade 1s. For information technology, we are seeing a 5% increase in the overall performance, and of course that could be well influenced from the grade 1, where we're seeing that 23%. Human and social biology, we saw an improvement also on the 16% of the grade 1s, but some stability there, I would say, on the overall performance. EDPM, another very large cohort takes the subject. This is actually the 5th largest. I'm not sure why this is not moving. But for EDPM, we had 81% in terms of the pass overall acceptable grade, and a great reduction on the grade 1s, not something that we're happy about. Physical education and sport, again, similar to the Cape, as I said before, this seems to be something that the Caribbean is going in that direction. We saw not only an increase in the cohort, but 52% of the candidates receiving grade 1, largest and best performance over the last 3 years. 98% received acceptable grades. For the subjects relevant to the region, agricultural selected subjects relevant to the regional development, agricultural science, single award, 91% overall performance, and if you notice that 18% improvement, unlike the double award where you are seeing a slight reduction on the grade 1s and a slight reduction in the overall performance. But I wouldn't complain about that, it's 98%, so that's good. Biology, 83% overall, all best for the last 3 years, and for the grade 1s likewise. For chemistry, also a very popular subject across the region, we are seeing a reduction in the grade 1s as well as the overall performance for chemistry. Economics, very important for the region because we do a lot of finance and investment. 69% consistent with previous years, and a reduction in the grade 1s. Food, nutrition, and health, consistent with the Cape. We are seeing an overall performance, but a dip in the grade 1s. For industrial technology building, a lot of construction going on in the region. We are seeing a little dip there on the grade 1s, and also consistently overall reduction. Music is something that we saw a good improvement in terms of the cohort, number of persons who would have registered for music. And we saw an improvement not only in the grade 1s, but look at that number moving from 74% to 86%. It's very important, especially for the tourism belt, as well as generally. This does provide some growth regionally. For physics, we saw a reduction overall, but we are seeing some stability there at the grade 1. Principles of accounts, we are seeing an increase in the grade 1s to 17% and an increase overall to 74%. I must add here that Spanish, this improvement is good because as a Caribbean region and for us to manage within our sphere, this is a good signal for us. 20% best over the last 3 years for the grade 1s, and overall performance to 64%. That's for Spanish. Sorry about that. Now to go to Cayman Islands to give some focus, and I'm going to be referencing some of what we presented earlier. So for the Cayman Islands, we look at the overall performance of Cape. For the Caribbean studies, we saw 100% of the candidates receiving acceptable grades, best in the last 3 years. Okay, sorry about that. Yes, my clicker. All right, for communication studies, we saw a dip to 62%. There was an increase on the lower end of the acceptable grade band, so it's something that you would want to look at there. However, for digital media, you are consistent with the 100% receiving acceptable grades overall. Very good. When I saw this one, I said to myself, Cayman must have pushed up this physical education and sports grades, because you were not only consistent with the 100% overall performance, but look at those grade 1s. 43% of the candidates receiving grade 1s. That's excellent. Excellent. And that is consistent with what is happening, for Unit 2. Oh, going a little fast now. For Unit 2, look at the Unit 2 also. Unit 2 had 33% and Unit 1 had 43%. That's very, very good. So, Minister, I'm not sure what's happening with physical education and sport, but obviously something is going on there that you can look at. Yes. For CSEC, biology, we saw an improvement likewise. An improvement for biology, 94%, consistent with previous years, but those ones went up to 42%, 12% more than last year. For Caribbean history, and I must note that the region did not do as well. You actually outperformed the region in Caribbean history. So 6% on the grade ones and very good on the overall performance of 81%. Similarly for chemistry, you'll recall here, the overall performance for chemistry, 80%, consistent with last year, but again, those ones, 30%, consistent with last year, but of course, keeping the trend of best performance. EDPM, while we saw a reduction in number of grade ones, you had an overall 86% improvement in the EDPM grade. So that's good too, 5%, because remember the grade 2 is 35%, 7% increase. That's also very good. Remember, it's an acceptable grade. English A, you had an improvement to 75%, and equal to that, 23% stability on the grade 1s. Food, nutrition, and health. Food, nutrition, and health, you had a 29% on your grade 1s, best performance over the last 3 years. Notice where you were in 2023, 8%. You're now at 29%. Very good trajectory. Consistent overall, 70 to 85. Very good. Human and social biology, likewise, you had a good improvement there to 82%, 10% improvement. And grade 1s doubling, 100% there, from 16 to 32. Information technology, 47%, moving 17% on the grade 1s and 98% on the overall performance. So we're looking for the 100% next year. Likewise, it's not showing. Information technology, there you go. Industrial technology, building. I'm seeing a lot of construction going on, so I'm not sure if this is saying this is, I guess, going in the right direction. While you had an overall reduction in the performance, look at those grade 1s, 37%. Look at last year was 7%. Don't be too hard on yourself. 37%, excellent. Mathematics, Cayman Islands, you are okay. This clicker is keeping everybody in suspense. Wow, it doesn't. Math. 43%, an improvement over last year and better than the regional performance. So you are better than the not only moving in the national sense, but better than the regional performance, and that's good. So it is something that we can, obviously whatever you're doing, continue to do it, remembering that this group would have started in 2020. Office administration, you had a reduction there for both grade 1s and overall performance, but you're still above that 84% mark. For the physical education and sports, you had a slight reduction. I would say it's stable, 99%. No one would complain about that. And the number of grade 1, 63%. If you notice, that's where your heaviest group is. So that's excellent also. Physics, you had 79% overall performance for physics. For physics, and the grade 1s went up by 7%, moving from 20% to 27%. Now, I know you are strong in finance, so I guess that's why this is like this. 83%, it's kind of consistent over previous years, but 35% on the grade 1s. Very good. Principles of business, you had an overall increase of 84% and a slight reduction on the grade 1s. Now, unlike the region, you did very well on social studies. So this is probably something that it is very good, something that you have to look at. I mean, the region probably could have that conversation because you had an 86% overall performance. The region, I think, was in its 50s. So that's really, really good. And 9% on the grade 1s, very good. Spanish was also very good. Spanish, you had a 93% overall performance, 23% more than last year, and 5% increase on the grade 1s. Similarly, for visual arts, you had a 93% on the overall performance. And that's, I must say, as we end that part of the presentation, that the Cayman Islands did very well. And I believe you need to give yourself a rousing round of applause. For the Caribbean Certificate of Secondary Level Competence, just to give a quick view in terms of the performance. Okay, I'm not sure what's happening with this. I think the battery is just giving up on me totally now. Okay, great. So the performance across the region in terms of the various subject areas. So this looks at mastery and so on for across the various components. And we have English, mathematics, social studies, integrated science, French, Spanish, and digital literacy. So while we would have seen a reduction in terms of what we had in 2024 generally for CCSLC, I must say that in terms of, remember, we also had an overall reduction even in the submission in terms of registration. For the CPA performance, while the Cayman Islands do not participate in CPA, for the region, however, we do have quite a few territories that are part of this process, and so we share that the gender distribution is equal. Now remember what I showed you for CCSLC, that gender distribution was pretty equal. You're seeing the same thing for the primary. So if you think about it, the registrar did mention about the longitudinal framework that we're dealing with. But if you think about what's happening from CPA, CCSLC being consistent in terms of that gender distribution, and then you see the change for CSEC and CAPE. It's something that as a region we can look at. But I'm sure we do assessments for other territories, and this is consistent with what we see. It's generally equal, female and male. For the results, however, for the school, they actually do what we call a school-based assessment. It has various components, and this is to capture the internal assessment that happens that the teachers do. So we take that into consideration. This is the primary level. So what they do in classes, we take that into consideration. And so things like a book report, writing portfolio, and so on, those are things that are done in class. And so for the book report, we saw an improvement over previous years of to 87.66%, and likewise for the writing portfolio. We just give a little synopsis here for that. There are several other components, but for time, we'll just share a few components. External assessment performance. I've seen an improvement for the language arts, the science, and the social studies, and consistency for the math. For CVQ, the Caribbean Vocational Qualification, we had 3,592 candidates registered across 34 occupational areas, a slight reduction in previous years, but we had a greater number of areas where you saw that engagement. Notice the distribution here also, still consistent, with the females a little edge on the 51%. We do offer what we call statement of competences, as well as the full Caribbean Vocational Qualification Certificate that is utilized for mobility. Persons can use it to move across the Caribbean for jobs and things like that. So it's important to note that 1,620 candidates received statements of competence, and 1,363 of the 3,592 received full qualification. So that's very good. Just to give you a quick look at the fact that CXC, remember I mentioned that CXC offers other programs, and it's just more than qualifications. It's really just a pathway that we have. And so for the CCSLC awards, levels 1 and 2, we saw a reduction on the CCSA, not slight reduction for level 1, but an improvement for the level 2. For the business awards, this is what the certificate looks like. I thought I needed to show the region. And we had 7,612 candidates, receiving those awards. For the diploma, this is what it looks like, right? We had, my apologies. Okay, so for the diploma, we had over 7,000 candidates also receiving there. For the associate degree, which I mentioned earlier, this is what it looks like, but you would have seen in my previous slide that in order to obtain those grades, the associate degree, you need at least 10 units, including Caribbean studies, communication studies, integrated math, or pure or applied math units 1 or 2, except for the major in mathematics. We do have further details on the website. So that just gives you a view. And for associate degrees, we had so it's 196 associate degrees and 9,712 CAPE diplomas. So we just want to, in closing, I want to just note that there are some key things for 2026. One would have been the fact that, and this is very important to note, that effective 2026, the candidates doing assessment, particularly their school-based assessment, will be allowed to use artificial intelligence. There is a standard, however, that they need to abide by. It's called the Standards and Guidelines for the Use of Artificial Intelligence in CXC's assessment. It's on the website. There are 5 standards and several components within the standards. It's there to protect you as well as to help you to understand not only the students, their parents, but also teachers. So instead of persons trying to find out how to use AI, we have shared even how to reference AI, something that could not be found anywhere at all. In fact, we work with our credentialing bodies, and that's a conversation that is going on, and persons are really feeling around. So we feel very good that we are able to offer this to the region, and we are encouraging everyone to go through and to utilize it. It's important to ensure that our students do not overshare personal information in particular. And because data privacy is one big one, and the use of ethical information. I must also note that come January 2026, we said this, that we will the multiple choice exams will only be done electronically, and for the paper 2s and the paper 3 2s, those will be done what we call hybrid, where the questions will be displayed on the computer and the students will write And this is a part in their answer booklet, and this is a part of the digital transformation thrust. Last but not least of importance is to note the changes in terms of upcoming changes in terms of assessment. For next year, May, June 2026, Office Administration, this syllabus would have been in the system from 2024. So the candidates sitting exams in 2026, they'll be doing using that syllabus that they would have started training on, teaching and learning from 2024. Not only for office admin, also for electronic document preparation, popularly known as EDPM, as well as the CAPE Environmental Science. Also to note that integrated science, Dr. Wesley mentioned the math and the English, those two are coming out for instruction come this September 2025, and the first assessment will be done in 2027. As we did last year, we are encouraging the region to access your preliminary results online using this code, this URL, and to remember that you do have a QR code that you can utilize to share your results with the universities and employers as quickly as possible. I must say thanks to the local registrars again. Thanks to all the staff members at the Caribbean Examinations Council, hard-working team. I don't know how many persons know that we are just over 100 strong, and they do very, 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 very good work. I must say thanks to them, and I must say all the best to the students, all the best to your parents, and all the best to the teachers as you move forward to your new 2025 school year. Thank you very much, and all the best for the rest of the day.
Thank you, Dr. Manning, for that detailed overview. Okay, let us now enjoy musical interlude featuring the talented John Gray High School String Ensemble. I think they're coming? Okay. Give them a minute to set up and arrive. I want you to join me in welcoming the John Gray High School String Ensemble. Thank you, thank you. What an example of the young musical talent we have in the Cayman Islands. Let's give them one more round as they leave. Okay. Now, yeah, grade one. Hold him to it. Now it's my pleasure to welcome our next speaker, the Honorable Ralston Anglin, Minister for Education, Training, Finance, and Economic Development. Mr. Ralston Anglin attended Sir John A. Cumber Primary School and graduated from the Cayman Islands High School. He earned an academic scholarship from PricewaterhouseCoopers to attend the Ohio State University, where he graduated with honors and was a member of several honor societies. In 2000, Mr. Anglin left a very lucrative professional career to represent his people as a public servant. Elected to the Legislative Assembly and served, he was elected to the Legislative Assembly and served 3 terms, including as Minister of Education from 2009 to 2013. During that time, he led major educational reforms and initiatives, such as the reintroduction of reception in schools, launching the Cayman Islands Further Education Center, Passport to Success, and the University College of the Cayman Islands Nursing Program. He implemented national teacher standards and improved graduation criteria, and much more. He listened to teachers and education leaders, placing public education on a firm footing and trajectory. Mr. Anglin was re-elected to Parliament after a 12-year absence and is a member of the governing National Coalition for Caymanians as the Minister of Finance and Economic Development, Education, and Training. Please join me in welcoming the Honorable Ralston Anglin.
Thank you very much. Protocol having been ably established by the Chief Officer, it just leaves me to welcome all of you, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, but of course, to play a special welcome to our colleagues from CXC. But before I start, I must tell you they've given me an hour, so I would suggest, since you've been sitting for a while, that maybe you want to stand in your place and stretch your legs, and I can see those of you yawning and pawning in the audience to say, wow, he's going to be going an hour. That's a joke for the morning. Let's give a special, an extra applause, even though I think they've gone, to the John Gray String Ensemble. Yet another great example of the talent that is harnessed and developed in our school system. For over 5 decades, the CXC has been an integral part of the Caribbean's education landscape. Here in the Cayman Islands, almost every student who has passed through our government schools since the 1990s will carry memories of these exams. For many of those years, they converged at school to collect their results. Today, thanks to CXC's ongoing digital transformation, that movement has evolved. Shortly, students here in Cayman and thousands more across the Caribbean will access their results online. While the method has become far more convenient, I'm sure that the anticipation and emotion remain, as it marks the culmination of years of effort and learning. I use this opportunity to thank our team of dedicated teachers here in the Cayman Islands and across the Caribbean for their pivotal role in guiding, encouraging, and challenging our students and ensuring effective learning. Your dedication and expertise are the quiet forces behind our students' success. As I reflect on the crucial role of quality teaching, I am reminded of my own learning experience. From the time I was very small, I taught myself math in ways that were different from what was taught at school. I learned long multiplication, for example, using estimation and problem solving in my own way. I remember one teacher in particular who when I solved problems differently, became frustrated because I wasn't following her method, but I always got the right answers. I just learned very differently. That experience taught me something I carry to today. If a teacher cannot recognize who is in front of them, how can they truly teach and draw out a child's potential? This is why differentiated learning is essential. Every child learns differently, and it is our responsibility as educators and leaders to meet them where they are, to challenge them, support them, and nurture their abilities. This principle also shapes the Ministry of Education and Training's approach to vocational and technical education. From the dual enrollment program at UCCI, students can pursue certificate courses in computer and construction technology while still in secondary school. This program not only prepares students for success in CXC exams, but equips them with practical skills and recognized qualification that can open doors and multiple career pathways. But education is not just about what happens in the classroom. Like teachers, parents also play a crucial role in education. When parents work closely with teachers and play an active role in guiding their children through study routines and exam preparations, they strengthen the foundation for their achievement. To the parents and guardians who supported, believed, and sometimes pushed when it was needed, thank you. Your commitment is the foundation on which these achievements are built. To every student awaiting your results, I say congratulations. Today is indeed a significant milestone. You are a challenged cohort, the first to commence your secondary education in the midst of a global pandemic. While the world around you shifted, you not only adapted to a high school curriculum, but to new technologies, new ways of learning, and endured periods of isolation and uncertainty. You learned to connect with peers and teachers remotely and how to keep on moving even when routines were upended. And so, regardless of your results, you have already achieved something remarkable. You have completed a challenging journey, built resilience, and developed skills that will serve you throughout your life. That in itself is worthy of pride and recognition. As you move on to the next stage, whether in TVET and in work experience, UCCI's dual entry, A-levels, or you move to new campuses, do not be afraid to find your own way. There is more than one path to success, and often it is the courage to take your own path that shapes who you become. And on those days when learning will feel hard or progress feels slow, remember the words of the great Nelson Mandela: I never lose, I either win or learn. In other words, every mistake teaches you something success simply cannot. Remember that education is a collective endeavor. It involves students, teachers, parents, communities, and institutions like CXC. Together, we can ensure the Caribbean is recognized not only for its beauty, but for its intellectual leadership, innovation, and excellence. We must ensure we assist students in becoming problem solvers with the critical competencies to become the innovators of tomorrow. So if we equip our students with knowledge, curiosity, and courage, the results we celebrate will go way beyond academics. They will reflect a generation ready to lead, serve, and shape the Caribbean for today and tomorrow. So those are the remarks that they wrote for me to say. Let me welcome, I see colleagues from the prison services, and thank you for the work that you do for in ensuring that we keep those prisoners safe, trying to ensure you upskill them so that they are more prepared for a world outside, and a life of normalcy is incredibly important. And so people may be wondering, well, why am I recognizing them? Well, when we see the Cayman results not only are those results of our public schools, but they also include our private schools, adult learners, and those who are housed at our prisons who also take up the opportunity to learn more and to actually sit exams. Of course, the Department of Education Services does glean the data and ensure that we also produce a report that is just the public education system. Coincidentally, today also marks the 100 days of the new administration. And I would like to say that later this afternoon, we are going to have a community event where we mark the achievements thus far. And so I thought it quite coincidental that I would be here today marking significant achievements with our students. And later this afternoon, I can welcome all of our adults to mark the achievements of this administration thus far. I can also say that we're not just going to want to see the results of the pilot study of the CTEC, but I can today assure you that Cayman will be participating in the pilot study. For we do not just want to be observers, but we must participate in all of these important initiatives if we are going to truly be able to serve our students in the most meaningful way. And so I look forward to this year because I'm excited. Just yesterday, we had a very informative session, one that gave me hope and encouragement for what yet another education product will look like. And those of you who know me know that I look at education as a product that we supply to the public. It just happens to be one of the most life-changing. And how we shape that product, whether we use the British curriculum or we have private schools who use the American curriculum, is of critical importance as we develop our young people. For we're not in the business of babysitting. We're not in the business of having young children simply gather social and pass through and then reach the end. We're in the human capital development business. We're in the business to ensure that every child in the Cayman Islands, whether they're in public schools or in private schools, receive the type of care and education that transforms their lives and ensures that they come out the types of citizens that we want to build our community around. We want inquisitive, innovators. We want children who are curious. We want young people who are brave, resilient, and ready to take up the challenges of adulthood. For if we don't assist our parents in our homes in that way, then we have truly failed not only our community, but we have failed our children. Our children must be at the center of everything we do. Every decision we make isn't about the comforts of educators, isn't about the politics of the ministry. It is about ensuring that our children receive the love, care, and instruction they need to help them in their journey through life. We must meet our children wherever they come from, whether they come from a two-parent home, both of whom have gone to university, or we have children that come from a single-parent home where that one parent is struggling, or if that child has been placed in a care home, irrespective of where our children have come from, we must meet them where they are and improve their life chances. Education and education systems can be transformative. Education is the great social equalizer. It is how you can be a child in a care home, but tomorrow graduate from university and be a professional. That is the transformative power of an education system. But if we don't place our children at the very center, and that every decision we make and every service we provision be geared at being wrapped around our children, we will have done it in vain. For going forward, we must ensure that everything that happens in social services has a positive impact on our children. Everything that happens in sports must have a positive impact on our children. Everything we do across government, irrespective of the ministry, we must keep one thing at the as a central focus. How will this make the next generation of Cayman better? And if we keep, and we will keep, that sort of approach to governance, that is when the monies we spend can have the greatest return, which is ensuring the Cayman Islands have the best trained, resilient set of young people who are going to be the future leaders. For none of us are here forever. I thank you.
Thank you, Minister. I'd like to ask you to stay. I'd like to now invite Dr. Wesley back to the stage to perform this symbolic presentation of this year's results. Okay, so we continue to celebrate the talent of our young people with two more performances by Dream Chasers Cayman Dance Company, followed after by Joanna Clark Primary School's Junior Choir. Please help me welcome them to the stage. Sorry, please bear with us. Obviously, we're having some technical difficulties. We'll have us back up and running shortly. So let them nerves get too bad, okay? Everything will be okay. So this is- All right, we're coming back online. Let's give them another round of applause as they leave the stage. Well, Minister, you said you wanted our kids to be brave and resilient. I think that was an example of that. Yes, yes. Good job, guys. Now is your time to have some of your questions answered. I now invite Miss Nichelle Narasing, PR and Marketing Officer for CXC, to lead a question and answer session.
Thank you, Jerome. Recognizing the protocol established previously by the Chief Officer, to our specially invited guests and members of the media who are online and in person, good afternoon, everyone. I would like to, before I open up the floor, remind members of the media to please indicate your name and the media house you represent before posing your question. At this time, I would invite any member of the media who is in person. Do you have any questions? Please indicate so that you may be acknowledged. Alyssa?
Hi, I'm April Cummings from Radio Cayman. My question is really just for the minister in this case. Just wanted to know his thoughts on the results as we heard them today. It's not a hard one.
Mic check. Mic check.
Okay, we're good.
Thank you for the question, April. Obviously, we need to get the data prepared specifically for the public schools, but obviously there were some encouraging results as the presentation unfolded to show the gains that we've made. However, that gold standard of 5 level 2 passes, including math and English, and getting at least 60% of all students in Cayman to that level truly across a cohort, still remains the goal. And so we know that we have a lot of work to do, but the work is not for the faint of heart, but for those who are brave and those who are going to be strategic and continue to push standards.
Thank you, Minister. I now move online. Do we have any questions? Okay, so we have a question from Ms. Paula Lindo from the Trinidad and Tobago Newsday. The question is, could you repeat the statistics Dr. Wesley presented in his speech, read the number of people who left school with 5 subjects and over? The statistics on the number of people who left school with 5 subjects and over.
Okay, so in respect of 5 or more, we have approximately 43% of those who took 5 or more subjects who got acceptable grades. So that's 42%, up from about 39, call it 40% in 2024 to 43% in 2025. So there's a 3% movement. In terms of absolute numbers, that would have represented 17,819 last year to 19,122 candidates receiving 5 or more, including maths and English.
Thank you, Dr. Wesley. Do we have any more questions, any other question from someone on the floor?
Good morning. Oh, sorry, good afternoon. My question is to the CXC Registrar and his team, and it is in regards to you have made a lot of innovations since you have been in office. One of the feedback that we tend to hear from candidates is the unavailability of sample questions. With other exam boards, you can easily access detailed past paper questions with like worked examples, specimen with worked examples. Are there any plans in place from the CXC to begin offering something like that for the candidates? Because you have done a fantastic job with your website, with your store, with the access to the syllabus, but that component is still something that candidates have been yearning for. And so I want to know if that's something that you have in the pipelines.
All right. Thank you very much for that question. Yes, we are making a considerable effort to make that information available. In the past, we normally do that through our subject reports, but we had some challenges with that, and we have overcome those. We are trying to get all those reports ready to up to date to be available online. But as you rightly said, though, we are rethinking how we do this going forward. In terms of what we make available, because up to last week we were in discussion about this with one of the technical persons as to because what we were trying to do, which is what gives us the bottleneck for you to understand, is to take model answers from what students themselves would have completed. But, perhaps for us to be more efficient at it, we just need to publish what the marking scheme, those answers thing, and share those with the correct working for the question and not necessarily what a student did and got full points, if you understand.
So,
Nicole will expand on this, please, just a minute.
Just to note, because we wanted to test the system where that is concerned, the last point Dr. Wesley made, and we actually did it for math this year. So on the website, we do have the math paper that was done in 2024 and all the answers, the mark scheme, everything is there. I know that we had some persons saying, we're a little hesitant in terms of sharing it with the entire public, but we did. So feedback on that would also be welcomed.
okay, appreciate it. So speaking as a former examiner for Caribbean history, I would mark, but I wish I could feedback to the students themselves. And we did go through the exercise of giving the question by question feedback, which is used in the subject report. However, as, is it Dr. Wesley?
Dr. Wesley.
Right, you mentioned that it's the samples that the students are asking for. And I know that as an educator, particularly in my subject area, I am mindful of samples that I provide because you do not want students to end up plagiarizing and give you an exact replica of this answer. So I know for some subject areas, it will be a little bit more difficult, but if we can do, because I use it in my classroom, if I get a good paper, I do, block out the names and type it over and say, this is a standard for this particular grade. But I think it would be helpful for students, especially in the humanities area, for example, where the responses are not so hard and fast, if we can get some samples. So
yes, we're definitely going to move in that direction and make sure that we use samples. And perhaps this is where I can put a plug in, where we're trying to get everyone across the region to begin to write the exams electronically. It's much easier to pull that data than go back to a manual paper to find it and put it, it's a lot more work involved in that process. So electronic testing would have allowed us to just pull that thing right away, right? And get it. But it is and that is why we were thinking that if we just put at least what the answer is for each question, persons will still appreciate what we are looking for. But I understand the value of how students can creatively respond to a question, which is also brilliant. But we're trying our best to get it done. Thank you.
Thank you for that. We have another question online. Alicia Dunkley-Willis from the Jamaica Observer is asking if you could please share the update on the development of the regional AI policy that was announced in August last year, indicating that Dr. Manning had made mention to it and asking if it could be repeated. That update.
So the responsible generative AI policy framework that we have developed, it has been completed, and we have circulated that to all ministries of education across the region, and we have invited them to work with us to develop their national policies. Those national policies are being worked on now. I know specifically we are working with Anguilla, as well as Grenada is looking at doing it, and St. Lucia, who have indicated that they want us to help them work through their national policies. We're hoping those national policies will be completed by December of this year for us to at least speak to. We have developed capacity within the Caribbean Examination Council, and I'm looking at her, and perhaps I should be looking at the mic, but we have developed the capacity in-house. We have 4 members of staff that we have trained in mini MBA in artificial intelligence and giving us the extra capacity to work with ministries, and we are making that resource available to the ministries of education across the region for those who are still working on their AI policy. But we are in the process of working with 3 member states right now who have indicated. There are others who said they are actually just doing a couple of things before they come to us, but they are also interested in working. The standards and guidelines that we have developed, they have been circulated to all ministries and schools as well. It's on the website, and the students and teachers have access to it to see what is it that we have allowed. So the next update that we'll give on this hopefully will be us showing all member states that have completed their national policy, particularly for the secondary education school system. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wesley. Members of any other questions from the floor here? Any other questions online? No? Let me just do a quick check. And I think that will bring our Q&A session to a close. Thank you very much, Jerome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Narising. Okay, so as we come towards the end of the ceremony, I would like to ask you to join me in welcoming Mr. Mark Ray, Director for the Department of Education Services, who will deliver the vote of thanks and conclude this ceremony.
Good afternoon, distinguished guests. Ladies and gentlemen, whether you're joining us here in person in Cayman or online, while protocol was expertly established by the Chief Officer, I want to give a special acknowledgement to our Minister, the Honorable Ralston Anglin, and our Chief Officer, Ms. Satonia Cacho. It is both an honor and a pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks on this historic occasion, the very first time the Cayman Islands has hosted the release of the CXA examination results. This morning was indeed a celebration of perseverance, innovation, and regional togetherness. I would like to start this, hopefully, very brief vote of thanks by first extending heartfelt appreciation and thanks to our keynote speaker, the Minister for Education and Training, Finance, and Economic Development, Honorable Ralston Anglin, for his motivating and poignant comments relating to the learning journey. Minister, your thoughts and words of advice on the crucial partnerships that shape our students' success are food for thought as we help to prepare them to traverse the local, regional, and international landscape, and as we ensure that our students across the region become positive contributors to the social, economic, and moral development of our islands, the region, and the world. Sir, you also referenced your mathematics prowess, and I invite you, if at any point you need a break from cabinet or caucus, we have some spots available for supply teachers. So you're welcome to join us. Our sincere thanks to Mr. Rain Hardin from the John Gray High School for his rendition of the Cayman Islands National Song, which was delivered, I'm sure you'll agree with me, with immense pride and spirit. I am very thankful I don't have to sing this vote of thanks, and trust me, you should be as well. But I want to thank as well Pastor Andrew Ebanks for the inspiring prayer, which really set the tone of thankfulness, which we wanted to ensure this ceremony was conducted with. So thank you to Pastor Andrew. To Mr. Tonya Cacho, Chief Officer in the Ministry of Education and Training, thank you for the warm words of welcome. You also crucially acknowledged the resilience of our learners, both of compulsory age and our adult learners, who would have navigated various challenges and persevered. You encouraged those who may not have done as well as they would have hoped, but you reminded them that is really how you bounce back. That is really important. A special thank you to our wonderful performers, the John Gray High School Ensemble, Dream Chasers, Cayman Dance Company, the Joanna Clark Primary School Junior Choir. They reminded us of the vibrancy and talent of our young people across the region, and most definitely right here in the Cayman Islands. Reimagining one of the most iconic cultural pieces like Munzi Boat is no small feat, and particularly to execute it that well. So I do want to specifically offer the opportunity for another round of applause to them. To our moderator, Mr. Jerome McCoy, thank you for guiding the proceedings with your usual ease, skill, and Cayman-kind flavor. You kept us on track, informed, and entertained, and for that, we do thank you. To Dr. Wayne Wesley, Registrar and CEO of CXC, and Dr. Nicole Manning, Director of Operations, we are grateful for your detailed and insightful presentations of the results, and for certainly outlining the broader vision for education in the Caribbean. The innovations and products that CXC have brought and will bring to our Caribbean education community augur well for the realization of the vision of our leaders and their respective communities, and that is the sustained growth and development by our people for our people. Your modularization of the CSEC certifications is a game changer for all learners, which will ensure that they're always progressing along that lifelong learning pathway. Dr. Wesley, we also thank you for the symbolic presentation of the results to our minister, which represented, in my opinion, the hopes and ambitions of all candidates across the region. To Mrs. Michelle Naresing, CXC's Public Relations and Marketing Officer, thank you for skillfully and tactfully facilitating the question and answer segment of the program. The opportunity for further clarity and participation is always very much appreciated, so thank you. To our guests, both in person and online, thank you for your presence and your support. It certainly means the world to us to have you participate and engage with us here in the Cayman Islands. This ceremony certainly would not have been possible without the coordination, support, and the Herculean efforts of a number of people from the Cayman Islands Ministry of Education, Department of Education Services, and the CXC team who worked tirelessly to make today a reality. Your efforts have brought our community together in an unforgettable way, and I want to always be very cautious about calling names when we get into the planning, because you will inevitably forget people, but I beg forgiveness up front because I will mention some names. I want to acknowledge Ms. Stacey Ann Anderson, the Communications Manager with the Ministry of Education and Training, and her amazing team. They're sitting at the back of the room. Just wave, ladies, please. Thank you very much. I want to acknowledge Mr. Richard Rose, who is now retired from CXC, and Mrs. Michelle Naresing, whom I would have thanked in another capacity. From the CXC team, they would have worked alongside us in planning this event, and we are certainly thankful for their guidance and could not have done it without their guidance, certainly. I want to thank Dr. Richard Wellman and Ms. Tammy Hopkins, the Deputy Directors in the Department of Education. Dr. Richard, when I was off on short vacation leave, acted in my capacity and would have guided a number of the behind-the-scenes work related to the timetables for the stakeholder meetings and so on, and Ms. Tammy, of course, would have supported right alongside. We have the Department of Communications who are live streaming for us and facilitating the broadcast of this ceremony, along with the CXC team, also live streaming. So I do want to thank the Department of Communications and the CXC technical team. Our HR, Finance, and Business Services teams at the Ministry of Education and the Department of Education Services, who would have facilitated a number of POs, who would have facilitated the meals to make sure that our guests were watered and fed. So we thank you for that. And I certainly want to thank Ms. Linda Rankin-Baker and the team at the Protocol Office who are ensuring that our guests are on time and everywhere they need to be when they need to be. So thank you to that team as well. There are countless others that I'm sure I failed to mention, but as I said, I ask for forgiveness up front, and I'll do it at the back end as well. Forgive me. And finally, to the students, the reason why we are all here. I say students, but I really want to say the learners, because we have adult learners as well. You're the reason you're here, we are here, and you're the stars, really, of this celebration. Whether you're celebrating a triumph or setting your sights on the next challenge that you have ahead of you, which really is just an opportunity in disguise. Know that you carry the pride of your respective countries with you. On behalf of all of us here in the Cayman Islands, a sincere thank you, and may the journey ahead be as rewarding as the one that brought you here today. Ladies and gentlemen, do enjoy the rest of your day and the weekend ahead. Thank you, and you are dismissed.
So just as an aside, when I was